Imagine a world frozen in a single terrifying moment. One minute, you have Tyrannosaurus rex ruling the land. The next, a 6-mile-wide asteroid strikes the Earth with the force of billions of atomic bombs. This is the story of what happened next. Not millions of years later, but in the days, months, and years immediately following the death of the dinosaurs. The impact, centered in what is now the Yucatan Peninsula, triggered a planetary catastrophe. The initial blast vaporized everything for hundreds of miles. Trillions of tons of superheated rock and dust were launched into the atmosphere, which then rained back down across the globe. As these fiery particles re-entered the atmosphere, they heated the air to oven-like temperatures, igniting global wildfires. For any animal not sheltered underground or in deep water, the world literally became an inferno. But the worst was yet to come. The massive cloud of soot and debris from the impact and the fires shrouded the planet, blocking out the sun. This created an impact winter. Temperatures plummeted, and without sunlight, photosynthesis stopped. Plants on land and plankton in the sea died off en masse. The entire global food web collapsed. Herbivores starved first, followed swiftly by the carnivores that preyed on them. This was the final nail in the coffin for the non-avian dinosaurs. Within a few years, an estimated 75% of all species on Earth were gone. The world that emerged from this darkness was a desolate, silent landscape, a world of ash, mud, and skeletal forests. But even in this seemingly dead world, life clung on. And from the ashes, the meek were about to inherit the earth. Who were these survivors? They weren't the biggest or the strongest. They were the small, the adaptable, and the lucky. Tucked away in burrows, deep in caves, or swimming in freshwater rivers, were the creatures that would become the architects of our modern world. Let's meet our ancestors, the early mammals. During the age of dinosaurs, most mammals were tiny, shrew-like creatures, scurrying in the shadows, active mostly at night to avoid becoming a T-Rex's snack. They were generalists. They ate insects, seeds, roots, whatever they could find. Their small size meant they needed less food to survive, and their burrowing lifestyle offered the perfect shelter from the initial heat blast and the subsequent freezing cold. Once the dinosaurs were gone, these mammals emerged from their hideouts into a world of opportunity. With the planet's dominant predators erased, they could finally step out of the shadows. The post-apocalyptic world, though barren, was theirs for the taking. The first plants to recover were ferns, creating vast, monotonous fern spikes across the landscape. Our mammalian ancestors would have scurried through these fern prairies, scavenging for insects and decaying plant matter. Within just a few thousand years, a blink of an eye in geological time, these mammals began to diversify and grow. No longer needing to stay small and hidden, they started to fill the ecological niches left vacant by the dinosaurs. Creatures like Purgatorius, often considered a very early primate ancestor, thrived. It was a small, rat-sized animal, likely adept at climbing the recovering trees, nibbling on the first fruits and insects it could find. But mammals weren't the only ones taking charge. The dinosaurs weren't completely gone. One lineage survived, the birds. Think about it, every bird you see today, from a pigeon to an eagle, is a living dinosaur. But the birds that survived the extinction event were not the diverse avians of the late Cretaceous. They were likely small, ground-dwelling species, perhaps similar to modern quails or tinamous. Their secret to survival? A beak. Unlike their toothed dinosaur cousins, these birds could eat seeds, which could lie dormant in the soil for years, providing a crucial food source when nothing else was growing. Just like the mammals, once the competition was gone, these avian survivors exploded in size and form. This led to the rise of one of the most terrifying groups of predators the world has ever seen, the terror birds. In South America, giant, flightless birds like Gastornis in the northern hemisphere stood over 6 feet tall. They had massive, hooked beaks, powerful legs built for running, and they took on the role of apex predator that was once held by the likes of T-Rex. For millions of years, if you were a small mammal, your biggest fear wasn't another mammal. It was being hunted down by a giant killer bird. What about the other reptiles? Crocodiles and alligators are true masters of survival. Their ancestors lounged in the same rivers as the dinosaurs, and they're still here today. How did they do it? Their semi-aquatic lifestyle offered them from the worst of the temperature swings. They are cold-blooded, so their metabolism is incredibly slow, meaning they can go for months, even up to a year, without eating. As the world crumbled around them, they could simply wait it out in the murky depths, surviving on the carcasses of animals that fell into the water. Snakes and lizards also made it through. Their ability to find shelter in burrows and rock crevices was key, and many, being able to swallow prey much larger than their heads, could make the most of any rare meal they found. In the oceans, while the giant mosasaurs and plesiosaurs vanished, some sharks and bony fish persevered, forming the foundation for the marine ecosystems we know today. So picture this new world, a few 100,000 years after the impact. The air is still hazy, but the sun is shining again. The fern prairies are giving way to the first flowering forests. Scurrying through the undergrowth are mammals, no longer just tiny shrew-like creatures, but animals the size of badgers and even small sheep, exploring new ways of life. Patrolling these new forests are the giant terror birds, their heavy footsteps echoing where raptors once ran. And in the rivers, the ancient eyes of crocodiles watch, unchanged, as a new world is born around them. This wasn't a quick or easy recovery. It was a chaotic and experimental time. Life was throwing everything at the wall to see what would stick. Many of these early experiments, like the terror birds, were evolutionary dead ends, eventually being outcompeted by the more adaptable and intelligent mammals. But they were a critical step. They were the bridge between the age of reptiles and the age of mammals. The world right after the dinosaurs died wasn't an empty void. It was a crucible, a brutal and unforgiving environment that forged the future of life on our planet. It was a world where the smallest and most unassuming survivors rose from the ashes to become the new rulers. Every time you see a bird in the sky or a squirrel in a tree, you're re-looking at a descendant of a creature that lived through the single worst day in the history of life and inherited a planet. Thank you so much for watching this journey back to the dawn of our world. If you found this fascinating, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the history of life on Earth. You know in the comments which post-dinosaur creature you find the most interesting. We'll see you in the next video.